Hi everybody, we are back with another little tutorial here today. So last time we took a look at drawing cylinders. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see what the practical application of those cylinders is. So cylinders are great. They're a super versatile shape. We use them a ton in illustration. There's cylinders everywhere. Here's a cylinder. Here's a cylinder. Here's another cylinder. Here's a cylinder. We have all these different cylinders everywhere. They're everywhere in daily life, and they're just a really they're very versatile shape, and it's very handy to know how to draw them and how to illustrate with them. So today I'll be using some more of this toned paper I like to draw on. I do have another little white pencil here, and I'm just going to use a pen to draw with today. So this is just a ballpoint pen. So I'm going to be drawing with this, and today we're just going to do a couple of illustrations using cylinders. So again, last time we talked about cylinders and light sources. Today we're going to take that knowledge and we're going to apply it towards illustration. So the first thing we can do is I'll draw like a little cup here. So here's how we use cylinders for drawing. So if you remember last time, real quickly, we set up our cylinder, and remember we had that oval, that kind of ovally top, and then we had that curved bottom as well. And then and I'll actually use just a regular pencil for some shading, but we had like the dark side that got a little bit lighter as we went along, and then maybe we had the dark side over here, and then we had some sort of shadow coming off of it, if you recall. So now we're going to take that shape and we're going to use it for some fun little illustrations. So this is just a little study of cylinders in illustration and just how we can use them for just about everything. So if we want to draw ourselves a nice little mug here, and I'm mixing mediums. I'm using a little bit of pen, and I'll use a little bit of pencil as well. But we have this cylinder shape. And remember, we want to curve that bottom so that it matches that curvature up top. That's what makes it look like a cylinder. And maybe I have like one here, and then maybe there's like a little base on this thing. So I get something like this. And so all I'm using is just kind of this same stuff that we talked about. I'll throw a handle on here. And I have a nice little cup of coffee here. Maybe you can see the coffee inside, and that liquid's gonna follow that same shape of the mug. And then I can just do my shading here, just like I showed you guys. So it's something like this. And then maybe I have that same shading underneath. Maybe it's not quite as drastic inside. Maybe I have like some little steam coming off of here because it's hot. And maybe I have a little shadow. So you can see by just how using those simple techniques that we talked about last time, what might just normally be a very simple line drawing of a cup of coffee, we can then elevate using these shading techniques and really understanding the shape of that cylinder. So these are just some fun, easy ways that you can use cylinders to just create some really effective illustrations. So let's say I want to do a can of spray paint here. And this is kind of fun because this takes what we talked about. And maybe on this one, maybe I see the bottom of this one. So it's like this. And then maybe that's the base of it. So this is cool because this takes kind of what we talked about earlier with spheres, and it combines everything because I get a little shape like this. And then I get this little dome up top. So if I'm drawing something like this, you know, I'm simplifying this a little bit. But all I'm doing is I'm making cylinders on top of cylinders, and I'm just mimicking this shape. Then I'm gonna throw my little dome up there, and then maybe there's like another cylinder shape. And then guess what? For the nozzle, I have just a tiny little cylinder, and it's gonna follow that same shape. And then maybe it's something like this. And then maybe I have a label, and you know what? That label follows that same shape too. See how my label on here follows that same curve as the top and the bottom. And that's how you get those three-dimensional looks here. And then this says spray paints. Ooh. All right, so there's our spray paint. And then remembering everything that we talked about, we can throw a little bit of shading on here, and I'm just using my pencil to shade. So maybe I get something like this. Maybe that label's real light. We don't get quite as much shading on the label. So maybe the label's like something like this. And then maybe underneath would be real dark because that's in shadow. And then don't forget, we have that, but then we also have a sphere. So then this is going to use our little spherical shading that we talked about. Maybe on this one, I'll throw a little bit of highlighty stuff. So I get a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of this, and then maybe some of this. And then look, I can even color these in, make this look real fancy. Woohoo! And then maybe I have some spray paint coming out of here, like this. And here, look, we can do even one of these. We can just draw a nice little pen. So we're gonna use that same technique that we've been using. However, this one is a little different because now what we have is we have a really thin, long sphere, but it's gonna be the same principle here. And we're rounding those edges. That's the important part. So like for this, maybe I then have something like this, and I have the little pushy tab thing, which is just a tiny little cylinder. Something like this. This comes together because that's rounded. This end's gonna be rounded here too. So then again, what becomes, or what is a very simple line drawing, we can just add a little bit of depth to and make it a little bit more interesting just by understanding that shading. And doing something like that. And then maybe I'll I'll just throw this on like that. So these are some really quick, easy, fun cylinder studies where we're just taking that shape that we talked about and we are using it to draw really simple items and really simple drawings. But because we understand the whole premise here, we understand the shape of it, we understand the curves that have to happen, and we understand where that shading goes, it turns these really simple drawings into something a little bit more interesting to look at. It turns them into fun illustrations. So this is a really easy, fun, effective way to use some cylinders for illustrations. And it's really important when you're doing even simple drawings that you just really have a deep understanding of the shape that you're drawing and how light plays on that shape. That's why last time we did all of those little kind of light studies with cylinders, because it's important to understand how the light interacts with that particular shape. Because once you understand how the light plays across the surface of a shape, you can then create these really dramatic three-dimensional drawings. And even though they're simple drawings, in understanding the lighting and the surface structure of that, we end up making really simple drawings really interesting to look at. Because even though they're simple, they still have that three-dimensional quality, and they just kind of pop off the page, and they're just a lot more fun to look at than, you know, if you were to just draw like this simple something like this and say, oh, that's a coffee mug. Well, yeah, maybe that's a coffee mug, but isn't that a lot more of an interesting coffee mug? So it really helps in your drawing if you can do something as simple as understand how a shape is drawn and how the light interacts with that shape. And if you can do that on a simple level like this, then you can really elevate your drawing and you can turn it into something much more interesting to look at. And it's just gonna make you a better artist. That's one of the most important things in art, is understanding shape and understanding how lighting interacts with certain shapes. So this was just a quick little tutorial here, how to take those cylinder studies and turn them into something more interesting. I hope that this was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.